What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to ISO Gaming, and today we're going to be talking about my top 5 most underrated gods in Smite. Before we get into the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you'd like to keep up with any future content, I'll be leaving the link to my Discord in the description below, and if you want to catch my stream, I'll also be leaving that link as well. So, at number 5, we're going to be talking about Chang'e. Now, I already made a full video about why I think this character is underplayed, but in summary, this character is extremely mobile. She can do some pretty decent damage. She has healing, and then she has a CC immune, damage immune ability that without cooldowns is on a 13-second cooldown. Plus, this ult right here, the more people it hits, the longer it stuns at a max of 5 seconds, I believe. So that's a pretty hard-hitting stun. Probably the hardest hitting stun in the game. And the fact that this character basically auto-wins lanes is very frustrating, especially when it comes to the solo lane. And also the fact that she doesn't have to go back in the solo lane because she has the mana camp and her passive. So let's go ahead and move on to number 4. Alright, so at number 4, we're going to talk about Ravana. Now, this character I feel like is incredibly strong. Because for multiple reasons. One, he has a CC immune, damage immune ability that does damage and can get him out of a lot of tricky situations. He has his third ability, which roots, and it's slow, and it heals him. And then he has his first ability, which hits pretty decently hard, and it slows. Not to mention his ultimate, which applies a debuff to enemies, making them take more damage. And he also takes reduced damage from any enemy sources after landing. So this character can not only be flexed in the solo lane when he used to be a warrior, but now that he's assassin, he can still flex in solo lane. He does incredible damage, and he has some pretty decent CC. Even though as a jungler he does fall off late game, he still has a very strong spot, at least in my opinion. He's a pub stomper that can translate really well into the late game if he builds correctly. So at number 3, we're going to be talking about Nike. Now, this is just a personal thing for me. A lot of my friends and a lot of people that I play with say Nike really isn't all that great, but I sorely disagree with them. She has really good clear and damage with this first ability. She has this really annoying pushback move that can force people into tower or back into an enemy team, and then when it's done casting, can do pretty insane damage at 310 at max rank. And then this leap, since it got buffed, is faster, knocks up enemies, and it's a good form of CC. Plus, she's unkillable because of this ult here that gives her a health shield depending on her max health. And that slow is really nasty. It's a 40% slow, and it lasts for 6 seconds. Right? Pair that with like a Predwin that also gives her a shield or something along those lines. She can be very frustrating to deal with. And her global passive that increases power and movement speed for her team by not a small amount, but by a percentage. And a percentage-based increase is always really welcome. So I feel like this character is really underappreciated, and I feel like this character should be flexed a lot more. At number 2, we have Izanami. Now, I do recognize this character may not be the greatest, simply because her basic attacks here aren't that strong. Without her stim, and then she doesn't really have that great of team fight potential. However, she does do what I believe hunters should be doing really well, and that's sneak pushing. It's very hard for people to catch this god whenever she has teleport up, even though you would have wards. Invis character can still be really frustrating to deal with. Not to mention that her stim does do extra damage to towers, since it gives bonus damage at 25 and increases her attack speed by 75%. So she can really take advantage of not being in a team fight or having her team distract while she sneak pushes a lane. And then the second that somebody thinks she's coming up, she just invises away, waits for them to go away thinking she's gone, and then she's right back on that tower. Or she goes invis and goes right back to a different tower, sneak pushes that lane. So even though I believe that this character may need a little bit of tweaking, I think this character is very strong for what she does, and that's sneak pushing. Not a lot of gods can do that. So before we get to number 1, we're going to go ahead and do 2 honorable mentions. So at number 2 for the honorable mention is Anhur. Now this character is extremely difficult to play. And you can really mess up your own team if you don't have really good positioning. However, if you master this character and you know how to position really well with his passive and how hard his abilities can hit, This character can be extremely terrifying. So if you didn't know, his basic attack, if he hits them, it takes away 20 physical protections. Now this doesn't stack, but anything that takes away protections is really strong. On top of the fact that his shifting sand slows enemies, and his basic attacks deal increased damage by 20%, and it's a 35% soul, so it should be really scary. And plus he has a stun if he impales somebody to a wall. Also, you can use his leap very aggressively. And once you get used to how to position and how to set up your 1 and 2 properly, this character can be very scary with how much damage he deals. Now, albeit I believe his ultimate needs a rework, but if you hit every single hit of this ultimate, by God, you are going to be chunking not only squishies, but tanks as well. The second honorable mention I wanted to talk about was Zeus. Now, we've all been victimized by Zeus when we first played this game, and I still feel like he's really good. Now, his power and how well he does goes down a little bit when you're in Conquest because he's more susceptible to ganks, you know. However, there is nothing bad about a character that kills somebody else because he was aiming at someone else. So, if you didn't know, whenever his first ability hits somebody, it will jump between enemies, including minions, for, I believe, 4 hits, okay? And this slows by 30%, right? And then his third ability hits massively hard. And the more charges somebody has on them, the harder his third ability will hit. So, and on top of that, if you throw your shield and then hit your 1 with it, that arc will jump to other people, making it stack on everybody in the area. Let me go ahead and show you what that looks like, because he hits pretty hard. So if I get underneath here, right? Third ability, fourth ability. So this character can pump out a lot of damage. And it's, like, even though he is susceptible to ganks, all he has to do, like I did there, was drop his ult on top of himself and just keep hitting his basics, and voila, 3 and they're dead. It's very frustrating dealing with this god, just because if you're standing next to a teammate trying to get away, or if you're running away but your teammate is just slightly too close to you and that arc hits you, Zeus will kill you. And even though they nerfed how fast his third ability comes out, it still comes out pretty decently fast, so you still have to have pretty good reactions to deal with it and Aegis on time. So, yeah, let's go ahead and get to number 1. So, at number 1, we're going to be talking about Kumbhakarna. Now, I feel like this character is insanely broken. But that's just me, and let me explain why. So, the main argument that I hear about dealing with Kumbha is that all you need is beads and a Magi's, and you'll fuck up Kumbhakarna. Here's my issue with that, right? You're not always going to have beads up, and you're not always going to have Magi's up. And he can get rid of it really, really fast with Mez. Right? And this root, even if you beads it, still does 290 damage at max rank. And it's a 2-second root. On top of the fact that this little move right here, his ultimate, will banish an enemy. Right? And people don't really like banishes, but let me tell you why banish is really good. Now, this means Kumbha can target the enemy tank and banish him. Right? Making it to where now the team doesn't have a front line for a couple seconds. For how long exactly? They'll be knocked up for 2.2 seconds. Do you realize how fast somebody can die in that amount of time? Or how much damage you can pump out in that amount of time for a tank to be missing? Right? Because most of the time, if the tank is smart, they'll be building relics that will make it to where he can peel his team or protect his team. Right? Like Horrific or Sprint or Barry or something along those lines. So if the tank gets banished, guess what? The squishies are left alone. Now, the squishies will still have to deal with this character's damage, on top of the fact that his passive makes him unkillable, well, makes it to where you had to do extra work to kill the tank. And if you're focusing on trying to kill him, you're not focusing on the people that are focusing you. On top of the fact that he has this slow here, and because with this ability, he can help his carry clear waves. So he can be really aggressive, he can be a passive god, he can set his team up, and he can kill. This character does a lot of damage for somebody who doesn't really have a lot of damaging moves in his kit. And this character was a go-to of mine for a long time when it came to being a support, because he's stupid easy and it's really hard to miss his kit. So, and even if you do have beads and magi, like I said, it's not always going to be up. So all you have to do is just wait a couple seconds, or just have cooldowns, and okay, your beads are down, blink, I'm in, mez, root, ult, you're dead. Right? And with this mez, right? Now, a lot of people don't like mesmerizers because the second they get hit, they come out of it. However, this is a setup tool, which is really amazing for a support, right? Because look, this is a 3-second mez at max rank. So all he has to do is come out the jungle, right? If they don't have wards, but if he has a blink, it doesn't matter. If he blinks in, mezzes an entire team, they have to sit there for an entire 3 seconds, or they can use their beads. And now they had to deal with the other forms of CC that comes in the form of like Daji, or even somebody else with some hard CC like Arachne, or even like a Kumbhakarna or Persephone, right? So they're using their kit. They had to use their relics. Kumbha is really strong at making people use their relics before the damage deals comes in, because now, guess what? They're screwed because they used everything trying to protect themselves from the Kumbha. So I really feel like this character is underplayed, and I feel like this character is entirely really slept on. I just don't understand why. So those are my top 5 and 2 honorable mentions. Most underplayed gods in the game, or underappreciated gods in the game. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will talk to y'all later.